Okay, Sosa, you wanna mess with me? You messing with the best. You wanna mess with me? Okay, you little cockroach. Come on. You wanna play games? Okay, I play with you. Come on. Okay, you wanna play rough? Okay. Say hello to my little friend.
I mean, it's Scarface.
Yes, it is. Welcome to the Average Joe's Movie Class, Episode 7. I'm Justin.
And I'm Joey. How are y'all doing today?
Tonight on the show, we'll be discussing Disobedience from 2017 and also Gangster Squad from 2013. We've been away for a long time, but now we're back and we're ready to chat movies and have a new found energy for the show, changing things up a little bit and hopefully start cranking these out a little bit more often. So, Joey, how you been?
I've been really good, man. Had vacation. We both did vacation. So I think that's part of the reason we've been gone. So, hopefully we'll be getting these cranked out, like you said, a little bit more frequently. So
have you seen Scarface recently?
I have not seen Scarface in a really long time. But I mean, that is a really iconic line in a movie that is very well known. So
yeah, I knew for sure you would already know it, but I think I leave you speechless.
It was more it was like this is he trying to surprise me so much that I'm just gonna not pick it or whatever. I mean, like gangster movies is one of my favorite style of movies. Like,
yeah, definitely wasn't aiming to trick you. It was more of I wanted to see if I could channel my inner Al Pacino. So,
and it kind of fits. I approve. You know how like things coming full circle. So, and we already know we're talking about Gangster Squad. So
yeah,
it works
a little bit. Yeah, I haven't seen Scarface in forever. I think I've only seen it twice, and I've seen a lot of De Palma like in the last 2 years. And by far, I think Scarface, after like seeing all his other stuff, like Scarface, like Far Away is his like best movie. I've seen a lot of his earlier stuff where he's like kind of like doing this more of a Hitchcock thing, and then he has this really crazy one called Phantom of the Paradise, which is like this pseudo rock opera thing. But yeah, Scarface is like on a whole nother level of action and violence, which is pretty awesome. Have you seen Carlito's Way?
I have not. That one's actually been on my radar for a long time. It's one I've wanted to watch, and just somehow I've never watched. So that one's, like I said, just somehow I've fallen through the cracks and I've never watched it.
Yeah, me neither. So maybe that'll go on our list one of these days, or a challenge or something. So yeah. So tell us where did you go on vacation?
So I went to Disney World, and it was my daughter's first time going to Disney World, and it was the first time going with my family since I was a child. So it was the first time actually going with my brother and sister. They had been all together, but I haven't lived with them since I was in like 6th grade. So it was my first time going with them. And then, like I said, it was my daughter's first time going. So she had a blast. We were there for a week. And it was a crazy good time. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was very exhausting. It was very, very hot. I mean, as Florida is. So, but it was a lot of fun. She had a blast. Just as any 10-year-old would, having never been before. So
Yeah, absolutely. Any what's to you calling back to like your nostalgia? What kind of rings true to you when going through there?
I mean, honestly, the I think the best part for me was just seeing her have a good time. But for nostalgia purposes, like was Hollywood Studios, was all the Star Wars stuff. But
Okay.
I mean, my favorite movie growing up was Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like we did. I mean, it really for it honestly to be my brother's graduation trip.
Mm-hmm.
We mean most everything was catered towards my kid. Like I mean, like we made sure she met Alice. We made sure she met Elsa and Anna. We made sure she met Ariel. Like we made sure she pretty much did what she wanted to do. I mean, what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure I wrote Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yeah.
which I did. Because that's one of my favorite rides. I mean, I also love that movie. So, and I wanted to ride Splash Mountain, which I didn't get to ride because
Oh, bummer.
went to go ride it in the yeah. Well, we waited in line for like 40 minutes because that was one I specifically said to get a fast pass for, and we didn't get. And the ride broke, and then I rode the rapids in Animal Kingdom. So I mean, that was the thing in the safari. I wanted to do the safari, so because I knew my kid would love it because she loves animals, and she did. So,
Did you ride that?
and then I wanted to eat, and we ate like crazy.
Did you ride the Himalayan roller coaster in Animal Kingdom?
No, no, hell no, 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 no. My kid did with my mother, but no, 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 no.
Is
Let me
it
reiterate that. No.
Is it you're not into heights? Is that what's going on?
I don't like heights, and I don't like the sensation of free falling. And
Oh man.
so I mean, yes, I mean we rode some of the like smaller coasters and stuff. I rode those with her. I rode Slinky Dog and the Seven Doors Mine Train, and some of those. But yeah, no, the big drops and stuff I can't do. They just no. Um, no. I think one of the coolest rides though was the Avatar ride actually. Even having never seen Avatar, yes, I know it's only until very recently the highest grossing movie of all time. Sue me, I've never seen it. Whatever. But so they put you on this thing that looks kind of like a bike, like a motorcycle, and you have glasses on, and they put a screen up, and you're riding one of the little bird pterodactyl things, and that's really cool. And they did like give you the sensation of free falling some, but about the time where it would hit me to where I'm free falling, it would bottom out, so it wasn't like a coaster, thankfully. But the Himalayan roller coaster, Expedition, that was actually my kid's favorite ride. She wanted to like ride it again, but it was like a 2-hour wait without fast pass, and so she was like, "Nah, I'm fine."
Yeah, we had a real good
So,
time riding that about 2 years ago. I think my two, like we'll definitely probably go to Disney again like next year. We went like 2 years ago. And Space Mountain, like we waited in line for like an hour to get onto Space Mountain, and it broke like right when we were getting like close. So that was kind of disappointing. And then we could every time we went up to Small World, it was broke. So that was kind of disappointing. But I mean, there's hopefully we'll get some more chances. My kids are big into me, and my kids are big into like thrill rides. So and my vacation, we went down to the Tampa Clearwater area. So we went to a few amusement parks as well. We went to Legoland, Busch Gardens, this big water park, and the beach. And so yeah, we had a good time catching the rays down there. Although it thunderstormed like every afternoon. So like, geez, this Busch Gardens down in Tampa, like, yeah, I was almost on this one. Basically like Nolan was like an inch short to ride like most of the thrill rides. And so like normally like when we go to parks like this, like Christina lets me split off to do like one ride, and by one ride, like we were like the next people to get on this the roller coaster, and then like, oh, thunder in the area, shut down, and so I missed out on that. But we did go on a couple cool rides, and even more next time. So Joey, Have you heard about the big Criterion Spine announcement that came out today?
Yes, so number 1,000 is the Godzilla, what's it, 54 to 75, I believe are the years for it.
Something like that. Yeah, that's close, if not
Yeah,
exactly on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, as I live with a humongous Godzilla fan,
Oh, really?
and yes, Carl, which any of you who read any of my reviews and see me refer to Night Flyer, that is my roommate. He's a humongous Godzilla fan. He already has the original Godzilla Criterion anyway, and so that was
Right.
announced as 1,000. So yeah, he had been waiting. We had been waiting to see what 1,000 was, and a lot of speculation would be that it would be a Godzilla box set. So he's excited. The internet is not so much excited, but he's excited.
Oh, I hadn't heard any
So
negative reaction yet. What was some of the negative stuff you heard?
he saw some stuff. A lot of people were not. It's not highbrow enough. It's not
Oh,
an artsy enough film. That kind of crap. Trash. What have
no.
they ever done for film, et cetera, et cetera. Um, or there was one person who wanted them to be like individually released, apparently all in steelbook, or individually released with their own spine. Just dumb stuff. And it's like, this is a really dope box set. Like, I'm not really big into Godzilla. I've only seen the original now, which I watched not that long ago, and
Yeah.
the 2014 one. And I was like, this is a really cool set. Like, I would probably try to pick it up on the next sale at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All those I guess they call it the Showa era. I need to probably do some research on why they call it that exactly. But yeah, I think all those movies are on the Criterion channel, so that gives me even more of an excuse to finally check those out. I'm sure they're going to be fun. I just, for some reason, I've never felt really compelled to check them out. And yeah, like I think we both watched the original Godzilla around the same period of time, and I've seen the Roland Emmerich one, and that's pretty much it. So I need to really get on top of my Godzilla watching for sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It was super frustrating when so last week we were supposed to find out what Spine 1000 was, and so I'm the kind of person who, like, on the 15th of every month, I'm like constantly refreshing my browser in the afternoon to see what the Criterion titles are. And they pushed it off like 3 or 4 days, and like the only reason I found out it was actually going to be announced, I think it was on Thursday, was because they were like tweeting about it. And then we get 3 or 4, we got 4 titles that came in. It was this silent films collection, Haxon on Blu-ray, which I need to see Haxon. And then these just 2 other random films, and they didn't even have Spine 1000 at that time. And I was like, all this refreshing and waiting for this announcement for basically nothing. And then they announced it today, so that was fine. Hoping that 1001 will be Citizen Kane. Have you heard about that being speculation?
No, but that would be really cool, since it's number one on Laserdisc, so it'd be
Exactly.
really cool for it to be really cool to be 1,001 on Blu-ray.
Hmm.
Blu-ray. Well, yeah, on Blu-ray, and
Yeah.
I would totally scoop that up. I saw that last year for the first time, and really enjoyed it.
Hmm.
So I would totally scoop that up. Now that I went from having like 2 Criterions to a lot more out of this sale, because I basically broke myself um, on
Yeah,
my
same
last
here.
check. So
All
um,
right. How many did you pick up?
so I picked up. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I picked up 5, 2 box sets, or I guess 1 box set and one that had 3 movies in it. So yeah, so I picked up a pretty substantial um, amount. So I picked up the Lone Wolf and Cub box set, which is 6 movies. I mean, technically 7, because it also has Shogun Assassin stuffed in it in the extras. And then I picked up Silence of the Lambs. I picked up the Samurai set, which is Samurai 1, Samurai 2, Samurai 3, and those
Okay.
are actually those three movies all are spined. It's not like the Lone Wolf and Cub, which is one number. So that's actually three spines. But
Are those
they
Blu-rays?
go, yes,
Okay.
yeah, and they're spined. Coincidentally enough, with Silence of the Lambs. So that's actually 13, 14, 15, and 16 together. Then I picked up The Killers, which actually is also two movies. It's the 1946 and 1964, and then I picked up Blue is the Warmest Color, which on sale was only $12.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah, I was like, I can't not. I wanted to watch it anyway. So,
Yeah, every time you know that I watched that a few months ago, and every time I was looking for it, it was always on Netflix. So I haven't actually felt compelled to buy it, but maybe at some point. I mean, that's definitely I'm not sure if it really needs to be on my shelf now with little kids in the house, but maybe eventually when they're teenagers, it might be a better thing to have on your shelf. Yeah, I'm a little weird when it comes to Criterion's. Like I only get stuff generally that I've watched before, and most of the time, like I only buy films that, first of all, I really liked them, or they're somewhat kid appropriate, or they're like just beautiful to have on in general. And did you want to say anything else about the ones you picked up?
well, I picked up Lone Wolf and Cub. Obviously, anybody who knows anything knows that Shogun Assassin was mentioned in Kill Bill 2, and that those all Lone Wolf 1 and 2 were spliced together to make Shogun Assassin. So anything that's going to be Tarantino related or esque, I'm going to try to pick up whether I've seen it or not. So I picked those up. The Killers, I really didn't know anything about. It was just, I read the back, it seemed cool. So I kind of went complete opposite of you. Like I haven't seen hardly any of them.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of the opposite. So I don't know. I'll be watching a bunch of samurai movies in the next few weeks, months, and so.
As your, I know your roommate's really into samurai stuff. That's right. Carl's into samurai stuff.
Yes, he also, yeah, he also picked up a samurai movie because he went back and he did 2 rounds. He's done 2 rounds of Criterion on the sale. So
sweet. Is he a Harry Carey fan?
I'm not sure.
Okay. That's a lot of times when I hear samurai, that's one of the ones that comes to mind. That's a whole other discussion in itself. Maybe I'll challenge you with that one at one point, and I'll give it another chance. Okay, just curious if that rang any bells off the top of your head. I went way overboard. I usually try to I kind of budget like $100 or so on the sale. And I make a list on Letterboxd of what exactly I want to pick up, and I even kind of pre-scout my store ahead of time to see what they actually have. So I really did get into the Criterion sale. So I picked up 11 titles. I picked up Funny Games from Michael Haneke. I've seen the remake, which is basically shot for shot with I'm blanking on the actress's name now that I mentioned it. Anyways, have you ever seen any of the Funny Games?
I don't believe so. No, that doesn't ring any bells.
Okay, it's kind of like a twist on kind of a slasher thing. It's kind of poking fun at how people kind of root for violence in movies. And I haven't seen the original. The original's in German, so I'm looking forward to seeing the first go round of that, and so I have that on Blu-ray now. I picked up War and Peace, which I had talked about on this show previously. I saw some credit DVD copies of that a few months ago and was like totally blown away. So I was like, as soon as this comes out on Blu-ray, I'm definitely picking it up, and at some point I'll pop it on and check out those amazing Napoleon era war sequences on battlefields in Blu-ray. I got this was one of the later ones I picked up. I actually got a bonus from work, so I was like, oh, sweet, I can use this little gift card to pick up another Criterion since the sales is going on. And I got the Kotze trilogy. Have you ever heard of Koinis Kotze?
That does not ring a bell.
It's an interesting group of films. They're basically visual films that like have music to like visuals, and they kind of tell this thematic story through their visuals. And Koyaanisqatsi is all kind of about like the craziness of like human society and consumption, like almost run amok, and it really gives you that feeling of overwhelmedness through its visuals. And then there was two sequels to that, which I haven't seen the two sequels, but I picked up that box set. I finally picked up this kids flick called The Red Balloon. It's actually not spine numbered, but it's from Janus Films, which is related to the Criterion Collection. And that's just a 35-minute short. It's really cool of this kid falling around this red balloon, which I like to put on for my kiddos. I picked up The Black Stallion, which I was blown away by when I saw that recently. Has some amazing cinematography, and I think it's probably my favorite kids film in the collection. I picked up Blue Velvet from David Lynch. That's been a popular one this sale. I finally got a Charlie Chaplin film. I got Modern Times, which I'm planning to watch with my kids just so they can be more acquainted with black and white silent cinema. I actually got one blind buy, which was Jabberwocky from Terry Gilliam. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. I heard it's a little bit like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And generally, I love Gilliam always. So I did not feel bad picking that up. I picked up Police Story. I saw those a couple months ago as well, and I was blown away by the first one. It was amazing. I need to recommend for you to check out Police Story for sure. Two, I found very underwhelming. I kind of wish that this box set had Police Story 1 and Police Story 3, which is Super Cop. But what are you going to do? I picked up Heaven's Gate, which is like one of the most infamous movie flops of like all time. It was from the same director as The Deer Hunter. And while I trashed this movie, it was a really beautiful looking movie. And I think this transfer has a lot better color than what I saw on Amazon Prime a few months ago. So I'm going to give it another shot. And then when I posted a picture of this on the Criterion Facebook groups, everyone's like, why did you pick that up? And I picked up Jellyfish Eyes. And I really didn't have a problem with this movie. I'm not sure if I talked about it on the podcast, but it's kind of like Pokemon meets like Power Rangers kind of. And somehow ended up in the Criterion Collection, and I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, the CGI is a little dodgy, but to get like an international flick in Japanese where I can watch it with my son and like he can kind of practice his reading to like with subtitles, I mean, it's a win-win for me. I thought it was entertaining. So that was my massive haul.
Oh yeah, dude, you went pretty deep. Yeah, I actually have a wish list on the Barnes and Noble website for when if after we go to Columbia and we go to our I've got some I pay rent and other stuff, I can pick up one or two more, or for when it comes back around. So I've got a wish list of some other stuff like I'd want to pick up Last Samurai, which my roommate has, and we've watched already. I love that movie.
Oh, and that's the French film?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, I want like Seven Samurai. That movie is awesome. But there's some other ones. It's actually ones I haven't seen, like Easy Rider. But we have the Criterion channel, so we can watch that one and Lure. I want to watch that one. It's also on the channel. So those are easy to to come by. And then there's like Asphalt Jungle that I want to pick up, but I read the description of that movie and I was like, man, this is oddly familiar. Like if the characters' names are colors, then Jesus Christ, it's like I've already watched this movie just by a different director. For those that are not familiar, from what I read, and I'm not gonna assume anything, but based on what I read, it looks like it very heavily influenced Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, interesting. So, I had no idea. Yeah, that title's always stood out to me, but I've never capitalized on checking it out myself. And
then there's a few more, but Barnes & Noble is not letting me sign into my account for me to actually pull up the list. So it's just being a pain in the butt.
Oh, now I remember what I blanked on the lure. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't want to taint your going into that, but yeah, just check out my thoughts on it afterwards and let me know how they sync up. Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with by that one, but it's a strange one. You probably know it's a monster mermaid musical from, I think it's
I
Czech.
didn't. From It's from Poland,
Oh, Poland. Okay.
from my understanding. Yeah, because I just did a list of 76 movies around the world, where I'm basically going to go around the world watching different movies, and so that was my Polish movie. But yeah, so my wish list as of now is Asphalt, Jungle, the Yojimbo and Sanjuro box set, Charade, which I love. That movie was awesome. The Graduate, Easy Rider, Los Samurai, Lure, Hunger, which is also on that list of around the world movies. My Irish one. So that's probably my next round of ones I'm going to pick up to start with anyway.
My
Before things get out of
my,
hand.
my Criterion wish list, I have narrowed it down to keep putting off Punch Drunk Love. That's one I want to get. The Graduate definitely needs to be on my shelf. Harold and Maude, Inside Llewyn Davis, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Personal Shopper, which is on Netflix right now. So that kind of whenever it's really streamable, sometimes I kind of back off on stuff. 8.5, The Red Shoes, Thief, Election, Squid and the Whale, Wages of Fear, Rushmore, Walkabout, and House of Games, which I haven't seen. So I am a consumer at heart, so I'm always have my eyes on buying more stuff.
Yeah. And I also, and this is and we're gonna watch this one soon. Is Sword of Doom, and that one looks really awesome. Is what I'm interested in. We did this one's not a Criterion, but both of us went ahead and pre-ordered this. This is actually Arrow, so it's another a high-end, I guess, boutique, if you will, Blu-ray.
Yeah, I've heard of Arrow.
They have, yeah, they're doing a new release for Old Boy.
Oh yeah, I heard about that
So
today.
we went ahead and we actually pre-ordered that. And we pre-ordered it was a 3-disc, and then they actually came out and were like, nah, we actually had some issues. So it worked out. You don't get these special features, but you get all 3 movies in the Vengeance trilogy. So you just have to wait an extra month, and you get 2 extra movies for the same price. We're like,
Nice.
cool. So I don't have any Arrows. That'll be my first Arrow. The only downside to this is it's a Region B.
Oh no.
Yeah, sometimes the Arrows, even they say they're Region B, will still work. But if not, I think we're just gonna buy a PS3, and you can take the PS3 and switch it to Region B and just leave it, and it'll work. So.
Oh sweet.
Yeah, that's
So
our plan.
in terms of physical media, I think the only other thing I have my eye on is they're coming out with this Apocalypse Now 4K, which is supposed to be the final cut. So what we've had, like the cut, the Redux cut, and now the final cut, which it's getting pretty ridiculous with Apocalypse Now cuts. I wonder if it's even longer than what it originally was. But yeah, I'm pretty curious to dig back into that one. That is one of the more surrealist war films out there that I appreciate more every time I check it out.
One of the other big things I'm looking forward to is they've announced another Endgame's about to come out, and I do want to pick that up on Steel, but they also have pretty much they're going to come out with a box set of the 4 Avengers movies. Going to be 4 separate Steels in that, and they're also doing Thor 1 and 2 in Steel, and I'm just like, I can't.
Yeah, that's
it's
a
killing
lot.
me.
I'm definitely going to pick up Endgame,
Well,
and then today I saw that Ratatouille's coming out soon in Steelbook, along with a couple other Pixar, so that caught my interest.
Well, I was contemplating whether or not to get in game and steal it or at all because all right, getting that and steal that's no bigs, whatever. But picking up Infinity War, which I missed, that's $100, and so I was like, I don't spend $100 on a movie. I liked Infinity War, but I didn't like it near as much as Endgame. I was like, I'm gonna spend $100 on this movie, and then it's like, well, here's the box set, and you get Ultron and Avengers, and then it's like $150. And I was like, okay, well, that's a different beast, that's a different beast when you're already spending 40 on almost one, that makes them $40 a clip. That's a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And John Wick 3's on Steelbook right around the corner, and I've got the first two of those in Steel, so I mean, I have to get that one.
And it's crazy. Yeah, a lot of the steelbooks, like, I thought I had to get. Like, I was actually in Best Buy the other day, and they have plenty of, like, the Jumanji board game steelbox that I insisted I had to get on day one. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy what, lingers around and then what totally disappears. So, you never know. One other thing
there's one more.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say.
The one other one I have to...
Go ahead.
The one other one that I do actually have to find is Solo, because I have every other Star Wars movie in Steelbook. So that's the only other one I have to find, and so. Okay,
very sweet. One more thing I wanted to note in this portion was I was actually like I've told you, but I'll let the audience know that I was a guest host on the Criterion Creeps podcast, which I listen to every Thursday as soon as it drops. I'm a regular emailer to that show. Although I don't always agree with their opinions, they're two pretty relatable guys, just like ourselves, and I've been inspired to do a lot of podcasting based on what I've listened to from them. We talked for about 4 hours about all kinds of different movies, and the episode was actually focused on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which I had an amazing time revisiting that and looking at that from a more like, what can I pick out that would be interesting for a podcast point of view. Plus, they pushed me to, are you familiar with Fear and Loathing?
That's actually another one I've never seen that I really, really want to see. I've just never seen.
It's about this renegade journalist named Hunter S. Thompson, and we ended up watching a bunch of like documentaries all about him, so I got an even better sense of the movie with kind of understanding the actual guy a lot better and rereading the book. So, yeah, definitely look up the Criterion Creeps podcast on YouTube and SoundCloud, especially that Fear and Loathing episode, so you can hear more of me. And we all loved the movie, so it was like this whole like fanboying out on this Terry Gilliam film, so it was a lot of fun. And Joey, before we move on to talking about some more movies, we actually got some listener feedback, which is really exciting.
All right, awesome.
Both of them came from our first episode on Ashes and Diamonds. We had Mark Rep comment. He said he enjoyed the episode. Good choice of films to cover, and I like the idea of the movie club, so we really appreciate that, Mark. He had a question for us, actually me in particular. He says, by the way, how do you get 2,000 plus followers on Letterboxd? Any tips? And he is Movie Man Mark on Letterboxd, so give him a follow. Maybe he'll get a couple more followers, just off anybody listening to this this podcast. So I guess I'll start with this question. 2,000 followers. Well, it definitely took some work. When I first got onto Letterboxd, I just maybe had like a handful of followers. And, you see these like leaderboards with people with thousands and thousands of followers. And basically when I came into the Letterboxd era of my life, I've always wanted to be a movie critic at heart, and I never really pushed myself. And having the Letterboxd platform was a perfect way of getting all that like put into something where people would actually notice it and give feedback. And I just love the platform. I'm on it every single day. And so at first what I did was I liked like everybody in sight. And then after a while, I looked and I saw like I was following way, way, way more people than who were actually following me. And I was like, oh, that's not cool. I kind of want it to be like an even split. The same amount of people that are I'm following should be following me. And so I spent a lot of time evening that out, and I still do put way too much effort into actually keeping that even because I like that level playing field just in my OCD soul. And from there, what I do is I do a little bit of outreach. Like a lot of times when I'll watch a movie, like I'll look for people that like that movie throughout Letterboxd, and then like I'll check out the reviews and I'll like them and I'll comment sometimes. And so I do a little bit of outreach. I know some of my most popular reviews have been from like newer Marvel films, so it's all about like keeping constant with putting out new material for people to discover. And like me, like I'll go like way too go on and on and on about a review. I mean, a lot of people are really popular and they just put a little quip. So to each his own. But yeah, it's I think it's all just about being persistent and following people, liking people, and some of the most humbling things I've found now is the fact that like just randomly somebody followed me today. Based on my Princess Bride review, which I hadn't thought about in months. And then when I checked the leaderboard, like I have the 10th most popular Princess Bride review on Letterboxd, which is pretty sweet. So I'm humbled by that. I'm nowhere to be found on the leaderboard. I don't know how that thing works, but at least my individual reviews show up and get noticed. So. And it's not, and at the end of the day, it's all about me keeping this like written log of everything I've watched and how I feel about things, which actually paid off for this podcast because, like, I didn't exactly remember how I felt about Persona. And then I like reread my review and checked the movie out again, and we talked about it on the cast. And so I liked having that historical record for myself. Joey, what say you on how you letterbox?
I too like trying to keep it even, like you said. Mine is not. I think yours is a little more even than mine. I think I'm about 70 or 80 away from being even, where I follow about 70 or 80 more people than follow me, and I am nowhere close to you, friend. I think I have about 102 followers right now, so I'm definitely on the smaller end of that. But yeah, I was like, oh man, I got 100 followers. I was pretty excited, and like when one of my reviews, which are much shorter than yours usually, I think like my highest one this year has been like 7, and I was like, oh my god, I got 7 reviews. Hell yeah! I was like, I'm super excited. So yeah, I go and look at yours, and they have like 75, 100, and I'm just like, Christ. So yeah, it's just I don't know. When I first got on, I was just like, I like this person and this person and this person, and then randomly I'll be at work and I'll just get an email and like such and such person followed you, such and such person followed you, and if I'm not already following them, I'll follow them back, and then if I am following them, I'm like, hey, it's cool. So it's just like what do they say about this movie or this movie? What are their favorite kinds of movies? Or if a similar taste, that's really cool. And if they have something that's like off the wall, maybe I'll find a movie that I've never heard of, or I'll get a different opinion. Maybe you'll put me in a different direction that I wouldn't have thought of, and that's just kind of how I view it. Is it'll broaden my horizons. So one day maybe I'll get to 2,000.
I was actually pretty excited at one point about a month ago. It looked as if I was about to have exactly as many followers as I've seen movies, and it didn't quite line up, and then one number went way up and the other one kind of stayed the same, and so I think I was like 4 away from that. I probably should have like watched a few movies in order to make it line up so I could take a picture, but yeah, oh well. Really appreciate that comment, Mark. And we got another comment, which wasn't actually like feedback or question, but a Yavin Jen commented on the Ashes and Diamonds review, and he actually put a timestamp of when we actually started talking about Ashes and Diamonds. So that was an interesting thing to do. It gets me thinking more about, should we timestamp our episodes? Like, for instance, we're kind of in the first part of our show, and it's about 40 minutes in. Should I timestamp when we talk about Disobedience? Should I timestamp when we talk about Gangster Squad? Maybe. I don't know. Really appreciate you doing that, Jen. You didn't have to do that. Hopefully you liked what we had to say. Probably a controversial opinion since we were kind of meh on that movie. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and that was also us. I'm not, oh my God, we're professionals, but we definitely have a much more kind of idea of what we're doing. That's the first time we kind of flying blind out there.
Yeah, we were definitely feeling the water. I definitely didn't come in as prepared as what I've been doing lately. All right, so the next segment of our show, we're going to talk about a couple recent movies we've been watching. And Joe, you have a couple that you want to talk about?
All right, so recently, all right, besides obviously the two that we're going to talk about for the actual cast. So I watched Blue is Warm as Color. I watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I watched Alien. Those were probably and I watched Spider-Man Far From Home. So those are probably kind of the biggest ones I've watched. Oh, and Gone Baby Gone. Sorry. So I've all watched this month. I'd probably say out of all those, I absolutely loved Alien, and that was my 1200th movie. So I made sure I saved that one to be my 1200th. And that was, I watched the theatrical cut in Blu-ray. It was fan-freaking-tastic. So I'm sure at this point most everybody's probably seen Alien. I was kind of the weird person that hadn't. But love that one. It was fantastic. It's just a clinic in how to do a suspense horror movie. I'm actually looking forward to watching Aliens, which I know is a much different. It's not Ridley Scott, it's James Cameron, and it's an action fest. But I'm looking forward to giving that one a shot. I went to the theater. Obviously, went to the theater for Spider-Man as it's in theaters. I thought that one was really good. It was an isolation from the build, and it was a nice way to bow on the phase and set us up for the next phase. But it was. I did not like it as much as the first Spider-Man and with Tom Holland, and it was just a little different. I really enjoyed Blue a lot, really good. It was long. It didn't feel long, and then I watched it because of the comparisons to Disobedience.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And Gone Baby Gone was fantastic. That was just I like anything that's like detective or read that kind of stuff, and that one was hard hitting. I don't know how I just haven't watched that movie in 12 years, but I hadn't, and I on Netflix when I watched it, and it was fantastic.
Very cool. So with Spider-Man, it's been out a few weeks. I guess we can talk about it in more detail. Were you into the whole high schooler comedy that really dominated the first part of that movie?
Honestly, I guess there was some. There's some of that. It's fine. I've that same kind of shit. So, I guess it's fine. I honestly had forgotten about it. It was more, kind of into the whole Spider-Man and MJ and their super heckin' cute romance that, made me, the whole time I was sitting there making I'm gonna vomit noises. As my friend I was with, she was like, "Oh my God, this is so cute," and I was just like, "Yeah, I want to vomit." So, but
one thing that really bugged me is the high school romance and comedy in general, like it was fine. Like I think I got enough of it in the first movie. I was kind of ready to move on. Um, but it was just him being so whiny about like, oh, I just want to be with my friends and be with MJ, and I don't really want to do the Spider-Man thing anymore. And I complain about it over and over. That to me, that's like the Superman 2 syndrome of where the hero doesn't want to be a hero. I'm just so tired of that trope in superhero movies. It seems like we've gotten away from it a while with the MCU, but here it creeps right back up in Spider-Man Far From Home. So,
Well, I was thinking about this. I actually saw a meme somewhere, and they brought up Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and basically called him a whiny bitch, and that's all he did was,
just a little bit.
when he was whining, I was like, but like, you haven't seen, I was like, Tom Holland kind of whine, and like, he doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He basically, hey, who you got? Where's Thor? Where's Captain Marvel? Where's this person? Where's that person? It's like, he's like, I'm not ready, et cetera, et cetera. And, I get, Tobey Spider-Man, especially by 3, where he was emo Spider-Man, was, at least a little bit older. And,
Yeah.
here he's supposed to be, a fairly young, teenager. But it was, it did kind of go for a ways. They did some cool stuff with, with the illusions, but at the same time, we went fighting giant, Thanos and everything else to fight a regular guy illusions, but at the same time, like I said, de-escalation, so we can bridge from one phase to the next. So like I said, that part made sense. So,
what was I going to say? Yeah, I really, really enjoyed the Mysterio stuff. At first, like whenever it showed him like out of the illusion, it's like, oh, not into this. But whenever it actually was in the illusion, I thought that was like really great. It reminded me a lot of the Spider-Man cartoon that I know and love. And the other point I was thinking about is a lot of people want like these superheroes to be like so relatable, and I don't know what it is about me, but I just want to see my superheroes kicking ass and doing cool stuff, and I really don't care if I can relate to them. Trying to think. Like, for example, like a lot of times you'll ask people what their favorite sport is, and they'll be like, well, I'm trash at basketball, but that's my favorite sport to like watch. And like for me, whenever somebody asks what my favorite sport is, I just say football because I love to watch it. Like playing a sport doesn't even register in my mind. Like if I wanted to know your favorite sport to play, I would say what's your favorite sport to play. Generally, when I ask people what their favorite sport is, it's all about watching. Any thoughts on that?
Relating to your superhero, especially like I guess Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is supposed to just be this teenager. But yeah, most of your superheroes, you're not going to relate to them because, all right, like how do you relate to Iron Man? He's a rich playboy. There's like what 12 people in this country that can relate to him. Like none of us can relate to Jeff freaking Bezos. Okay, so Iron Man is Jeff Bezos in a suit. Okay, cool. Batman is Bill Gates in a suit. Okay, none of us can relate to him. Okay, cool. Gotcha. All right, well, Wolverine killed himself. Well, no, can't relate to him. He's been alive since, whatever time period you want to go from. Nope, can't relate to him. I can't relate to Ryan Reynolds. Sorry, well, can't relate to Deadpool. So yeah, we're just gonna continue about this day. Just let them kill everybody, beat everybody up, go about their day. So, yeah, I can just let them do cool stuff.
Well said.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was gonna say probably the thing from Spider-Man was the middle credit scene. That was probably the coolest thing. That was the big setup for the next phase and the next Spider-Man movie, or I guess definitely the next Spider-Man movie. Where
I'm definitely interested in checking out what's next after that big reveal. um, in the mid credit scene. So, all right, yeah, like I was saying
All
earlier,
right.
it's
So what have
amazing how
you?
long it's been since we've podcasted, and I actually counted up how many movies I've seen in that time, and I think it's like 60. But I'll just name a few of the ones that I've seen just most recently. Um, so like over the weekend, I saw the Lion King remake because my family wanted to see that, and I didn't mind seeing that. And that was by far the most crying babies I've ever heard in a movie theater. So that was just peachy. But that did cover up some of the noise my littlest one was making. Um, I had a pretty good time with it. Thank goodness the music was on par, at least on par with the cartoon. So that was cool. The CGI looked all really, I mean, it's all photorealistic like animals and stuff. So it looked pretty cool. I really liked it when they actually deviated from shots where like there was this really cool like under a waterfall shot that now that I'm thinking about it, it might have been in the cartoon, but maybe not. I'd have to revisit it. It's a little weird when you're watching like this CGI recreation stuff. There's that famous shot from the opening where they like rack focus and you see the zebras walking there. So like all that's like exactly taken from. So what are the differences? In terms, like a lot of people were complaining like the CGI wasn't as good. Because like you're not seeing the expression in some of the characters' faces, and for the most part, I would disagree with that. Other than the fact that baby Simba, like whenever Mufasa dies, like his face is like totally like frozen. I did not see any emotion out of that face, so that was a little disappointing. I was about to get to the fact that Seth Rogen was fantastic as Pumbaa. I mean, overall, I had a good time with it. I rated it 3.5 stars on the old Letterboxd. I mean, if I'm in the mood to watch Lion King, I'm going to pop in the cartoon. But I think they did a decent job. And I'm not sure if you've seen the Mulan trailer yet, but that looks really good. Like, that actually looks like a movie where if they gave live action treatment to, it would actually bring the story up somewhat to another level. Have you seen that trailer?
I haven't. I know that it exists, but that's a movie that live action makes sense for. To me, it's an actual movie where there's a war and a battle, and that's a movie that live action, like I said, makes sense for. Just like I thought, Beauty and the Beast makes sense, Jungle Book makes sense, and those are ones I've seen. I haven't seen Aladdin, the Aladdin remake. But like the Lion King, that one seemed like it was hard to do. And because I've heard a lot of the same things you said, and like they did the live action lions, your photorealistic lions, and a lot of them didn't have the faces didn't match up with the scenes and that kind of stuff. So I've been a little apprehensive about wanting to see that one per se.
Mm-hmm. The next movie I wanted to talk about, I finally got to on Netflix. It's called Swiss Army Man. And so at first, when this whole like opening of this movie starts, it's a corpse of Daniel Radcliffe, and he's farting, and Paul Dano gets on him, and he jet skis on a farting corpse, Radcliffe, and yeah, that's one heck of an opening to a movie. But really, this movie has a lot of heart to it. Like once you get past all like the real kind of gross humor to it, because in addition to him like doing these like fart cannons, like at one point his penis turns into like a compass, and there's all kinds of goofy stuff on the exterior of this movie that kind of is there, I think, to throw like general audiences off of. But if you really listen to what's going on in the movie, it taps into like different like social taboos and like personal insecurities, and I was blown away by this movie, by the fact that you could have these crazy laughs but also have a lot of heart to it as well. And I was really impressed with Swiss Army Man. And another thing I watched the other day, this isn't a movie, it's actually, I guess it's a documentary. On CNN they have this whole series going on now about the movies. And so right before I went on vacation, I checked out the episode on the 80s, And man, I just love like these like retrospectives of movies. Like a lot of people complain about the Oscars having these like different montages of like different famous movie moments, but man, I just eat that stuff up. So to have 2 hours of that on CNN, I was really digging that. And the two last movies I want to talk about just real quick, on the Criterion Channel, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Apu trilogy. It's this series of 3 films out of India. And when I first checked it out, like I saw the Darjeeling Limited recently because I was like in a Wes Anderson mood, and so I checked that out, and I actually enjoyed that a lot more than I remember. But I remember that Wes Anderson was inspired to make this movie about India because of the guy who, I think his name's like Sat Ray or something. But anyways, it's this black and white like humanistic film about this poor family in India. And I was like, oh man, is this going to be like Roma? Like I had some issues with Roma, just the fact that it was so like detached. But man, this first movie of the Apu trilogy is like so warm and relatable and had beautiful black and white cinematography. I just fell in love with these characters, and if you like Roma, I think you'll like really like Apu because it's like way better because it's like so much more. I found it a lot more investing. So that's my 2 cents on that, and I can't wait to watch the other 2 films in that series. And I guess I can't leave it without saying that I saw Midsommar from Ari Aster, the same guy who did Hereditary. Now, have you seen Hereditary?
I did see Hereditary. I guess it was last year. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Hereditary.
Yeah.
I actually just watched it for the 3rd time not too long ago, and actually the first hour like was a lot slower than I remembered. But yeah, Midsommar, for anyone that doesn't know, it's basically another grief movie where this girl has some like family issues, and to kind of get over it, she goes on this trip with her boyfriend to Sweden, and they're kind of on the rocks in general because she's like really emotional and he's kind of like emotionally detached, but he's also very non-confrontational, so he doesn't really have like the let's just say he won't sack up enough to actually just kind of split it off. And so it's this really crazy kind of Wicker Man story of them getting involved with this Swedish tradition, and it's with this cult. And I tell you, some stuff in this movie, I was just like, I was looking around the theater, and I actually saw it in an empty theater. So, but this is about as close to an NC-17 movie as I've ever seen in a movie theater, with some of the craziness in there, with violence and nudity. And yeah, it was quite the experience. It's a really neat movie because, I mean, you have these really cool buildings that have all these stories and pictures on the walls, and then you like start seeing like the stories like come true within the film. And there's some pretty messed up stuff in there, but it's the kind of movie I love. I love these like movies that take you on a real journey, and I don't care if it kind of leaves you on a down note, as long as it's like this like cinematic experience. I really dig those. So definitely recommend Midsommar. Plus I spent some time in Sweden back in college, so all that kind of rang true for me as well. And coming up for me, I'm going to take a half day at work tomorrow and see Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So really looking forward to that. Also have a buddy who wanted me to watch some Hitchcock films, so I'm going to check out Notorious. And I heard Quentin Tarantino talk up this one Western called The Wild Bunch, and I've been meaning to watch that for a while. What are some movies you'll be watching soon, Joey?
Well, I'm going to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm actually probably not going to see that until Monday. I'm actually off work tomorrow, but me, Carla, one of our other friends, are actually going to go to Columbia, and we're going to watch an NXT show tomorrow. So unfortunately, because we're recording this tonight, and because we're going down, we're not watching it tomorrow. But we're going Monday. I think Sunday after work, I think we're actually going to watch The Killing by one of your favorite directors,
Kubrick.
Mr. Kubrick.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we're gonna watch that, and That's the only like a meeting probably um those are the next two that I know I'm watching. Out of that, I'm not 100% sure. Um, um, I think Vampire is also right around the corner. That's one we've been talking about watching, and um, Carl has both of those on the show. Be pretty much so.
Oh, very cool.
So that's the only thing I know. Yeah.
All right, and so that takes us into our main films of the night. So we are going to be starting off with Disobedience from 2017. So the synopsis of this movie, according to Wikipedia, is this is a romantic drama directed by Sebastian Lelio. It's based on a novel of the same name. It stars Rachel Weisz, Rachel McAdams, and tells the story of a woman who returns to her strict Orthodox Jewish community in London for her father's funeral after living estranged from him in New York for many years, and it becomes clearer to why she left her home as the movie goes on. Joey, what led you to add Disobedience to your movie club list? And I think it has to do with a certain actress, right?
I mean, I'm very, very, very fond of Rachel McAdams. That anybody who knows me knows that's not really much of a secret. I love Mean Girls. I actually wear a pink shirt to work every day, or not every day, but every Wednesday rather. Something to do with that. I feel like when I made the list however months ago that I read the description on Letterboxd, it sounded very intriguing. So that's why I picked it. So nothing crazy or anything. Just hey, I like the actress. The movie sounds cool, and there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with Rachel Weisz. Liked her too back in the Mummy days. So when I was in high school.
So in the story, Rachel Weisz's father is the head figure of this Jewish community, and he's known as the Rav. And he actually dies in the beginning while delivering this sermon about human nature. Like he talks about like how the angels do good and the beasts of hell do bad, and we as humans have free will. And as the story goes along, you really see how that is a big theme in the story of free will. Oh, also note, we didn't mention off the top of the show like we normally do. Plenty of spoilers all throughout this show. So if you don't want to know about Disobedience, definitely check out the movie first before listening to our conversation on it. So despite Weisz moving to New York at some point to pursue her passion as photography, you kind of get this sense that she's not really happy in general. Like in this opening scene where she's doing this photo shoot with this tattooed guy, it kind of seems like she's going through the motions, and then she's kind of like going around New York kind of all like sad, and she even has this random kind of nasty hookup in this like public restroom, which is like, okay. So once she finds out about her dad, she travels home to, like we said, this Jewish community, this really strict Jewish community, which you find out more and more about as the movie goes along. Then one of the people she runs into is Rachel McAdams' character, who is married to this rabbi who is actually a close student to her father, kind of a protege type, almost was kind of raising him as a son at one point. And we come to see that these two women used to be together, which likely played a lot to do with her separating from her family and going to New York. I recall when I first started watching this movie that it really had this real drab, gray light mood to it. So it was really kind of somber to start off with. And I remember thinking that, but then as the movie went along, it seemed to brighten up, and I'm almost wondering if like whenever these two women's relationship starts to come together, maybe the film actually does brighten up some. I'd have to relook at it to confirm that, but that's kind of my initial impression of what it was. Overall, I would say this movie was just okay for me. I really appreciated a lot of things about it, and I spent a lot of time figuring out exactly how I wanted to talk about it because I can see this being a polarizing movie to talk about. I mean, I was looking at some Letterboxd reviews and people were kind of bashing the acting, but I mean, us as two straight males, how do we relate to this religious lesbian story? So, but I think there's enough there and enough that I didn't see to justify kind of how I thought about it. In general, I think that's the fact that so with this moody tone the film gives you, it has a real cold feel that I don't necessarily think I fully connected with how these girls feel. In a lot of instances, you kind of got a surface idea of what they're probably going through. Like, I think one of the best scenes of the movie is when they're sitting there at this table at this Jewish dinner, and some like the older ladies are like, "Oh, why aren't you married?" And just kind of giving her a hard time about that, which, we know at this point she has no interest in. And you find out more about their wigs, which was a really interesting element to have in there. So I don't think I really fully connected with how the girls felt. And I think I'll leave it at there for now. Joey, what did you think of Disobedience?
All right. So overall, like I'm with you. Disobedience was just okay. Like I felt like there was it wasn't way for better than okay. Like it was just missing something. I couldn't tell you what it was missing to be better than okay. Like the reviews that I on Max was either, "Oh man, this movie was awesome," or they said some really not very savory things because they were just going on and on about the sex scenes, or "Oh my God, I love the Rachels together," blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And then I thought the acting was actually really good. I thought that the acting was really good. I thought that they did the best of kind of what they were getting. Because despite the fact that the acting was good, I don't think that they did really anything to make me care about them. There was okay, yeah, they're in love, and or they were, and the things rekindled, but at the same time, it was like, if you're so in love, it just, I wanted to see more, and I don't mean like I wanted to see more of them. I wanted to see more of their relationship to Clara.
One thing I picked up on a little bit whenever I was actually listening to some stuff about it this evening was I picked up on the fact that the Rav apparently was encouraged the McAdams character to actually get married to the rabbi guy in order to somewhat cure her of her being a lesbian. But as we see, it's definitely a part of who she is. Although there are parts about her life that we see that make her happy. Like we definitely see that she has an interest in kids and she likes being this teacher. But then you have this scene where she sits down on a bed and she looks totally drained, and she takes off her wig, and I thought they did a really good job of showing her hair be really thin under that wig, almost like this metaphor of she's covering up who she really is every day with this persona of this typical Jewish lady in the community. Also,
yeah, I mean,
mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I'll say, yeah, I mean, there were things that they did well, things like that, and using, going in and, having a wig shop and wearing wigs and, attention to detail, they really well. So I'm assuming that you watched this on Prime, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so did you have the same problem with your audio being really wonky, where in one scene in the same scene it went from being super normal audio to being super muted to being insanely loud in the same almost sentence, because that really took us out of when we were watching it to the point where it was we had my TV at almost 40 and we still couldn't hear some of the stuff they were saying. And
I'm I mostly watch this on
so it
my
made it
laptop,
really, really
and
hard to
no,
watch.
unfortunately, I didn't have any audio issues. Maybe just it was a streaming thing.
Maybe. Usually we don't have any issues with Prime. I
Hmm.
mean, it's not like, it was one where, we were watching through less evil means and, we just got a bad rip. So,
Yeah, I can definitely see how
um,
technical
but yeah,
issues of
that's
the
because
film can
really,
definitely take you out of the mood.
but, going outside of that, like I said, there were a lot of good things. And back to your, yeah, she definitely, it was Rachel McAdams, but she didn't look, vibrant like Rachel McAdams. And that was another thing that I had an issue with the movie. The whole movie, like the only remnants of color that I remember in this whole movie was when they snuck away from the town to go on their little tryst to the hotel room, was the Decker bus being red. It was the only remnants of color that I remember. Everything was gray or dark, and it's just, I'm sure it was intended. I'm sure that like the whole color palette was gray and muted and everything intentionally to be gray and that whole drab, for a reason. But, usually there's something to pop out or stand out. The rest of it's done that way on purpose. But I'm sure the double-decker bus wasn't a metaphor for something. Shit, maybe it was, but I
Yeah,
definitely didn't
that
pick
did stand
up on,
out definitely
what
as
it
a
was.
London landmark there. I thought it was an like my ears perked up a little bit whenever they're having that intense talk, and they said how Jewish women are expected to have sex with their husbands on Friday. So and that's just a little thing. Like there was a lot of like I've always found the Jewish culture really fascinating. I really know nothing about it growing up as a Protestant. So I've always found movies where you actually are taken into like a Jewish service at a synagogue and hear them speak like Hebrew or Yiddish or whatever it is. I find all those aspects pretty interesting. All right, so, and that's funny. You kind of like I had kind of mentioned the fact that yeah, the film looks like gray, kind of bleak, but like typically I think Rachel McAdams is super attractive, but in this, like almost like all of that vibrancy is like drained away. So to kind of, I guess in a lot of ways, like so in Blue's the Warmest Color, like you get all these really close up shots to this girl's face, and it's really blush and vibrant, and you really feel, and she's very attractive. Where in this movie, like both women are very
I assume
like,
you're talking about Adele.
yeah, I think so. In this movie, both of them look very flat and plain.
The girl without blue hair. But
Right. Yeah, the main character
yeah,
girl.
well, I just watched it like 2 days ago. So it's Adele and Emma. So yes, Adele would be the brunette. Yeah. Yes. She was very, very, very attractive and vibrant, like you said. Yes. Anyway, sorry, continue.
All right. Oh, okay. So at one point, like, so whenever the house is a major plot point in the story. And I knew coming into that scene, I was like, he definitely probably wants to have this like one-on-one with her because she is not getting the house because like she was just totally disconnected with her father. So I kind of saw that coming. Although I think the more interesting part about that scene is she actually like she steals this wig in order to kind of fit in order to like be in the best light when dealing with this whole like house situation. And whenever she actually like sits into the meeting, she has the wig on, and the rabbi's just like, "Oh, take that off," almost like he thinks she's like mocking that tradition, almost like him like acknowledging that it's kind of silly that the women are wearing these poofy hair pieces. So that was one thing that stood out to me. Also, like whenever the women do start to get together, I'll go ahead.
I think it was more that because she's not married. Since she's not married, she's not supposed to wear a wig.
Oh,
Because I did some research into why they were wearing. Yeah. So Yeah,
Kudos,
we were kind
Joey.
of like, why, why are they wearing wigs, and so every once in a while, I could be mistaken about that, but we did look that up, and so one of the things where Orthodox Jewish women is that when they're married, they're supposed to keep their hair covered. So that was also in the scene when, and near the end, when Rachel McAdams goes and buys the pregnancy test, she wasn't wearing her wig, but she was wearing the toboggan style thing, even though, it probably also was cold, but, she wore that because she had to have her hair covered because she's married.
Gotcha. One scene that really stood out to me was, when they do start to kind of hook up on the tennis court, and this like random couple comes out of nowhere, and they're like, "What were you doing? What were you doing?" And then they end up like going and like ratting them out to like the lady's boss. I was like, "Wow, that is very intrusive of people's lifestyles." I mean, butt out, but I guess in that kind of a community where everybody knows each other, I mean, gossip's going to get around fast. And not to stereotype, but I do hear that Jewish women like to gossip. Not that regular or Catholic or any other women don't, but I think I've heard that before.
Well, and I think it's just even more than just gossip, because you hear so much about how Europe, since they're in London, but Europe is so much more progressive than over here in the States, especially in the South where we are. But so you think, oh well, they're going to be so much more aggressive, and that two women being together isn't such a big deal. But in their community, it's highly frowned upon, clearly by the whole tone of the movie, and that's why Rachel Weisz's character had left, and now she's back, and everyone knew that they were together as teenagers or early adults or whatever, young adults rather, and so now they're back and they're thinking she's going to corrupt Etsy McAdams' character, and so they think they're telling her boss that they think that they're doing right by her, they're protecting her because they're going to tell her boss, and I guess her boss is either going to go back and tell her husband or whatever it is, what have you. And so, they're gossiping per se, but in their mind, they're doing what's best both for Etsy, or Esty, not Etsy, Esty, and what's best for their community and all that kind of stuff. And that's just, kind of how I perceived it.
No, that's a very interesting point of view.
So,
do you think that the title is a little sensationalistic, or do you think it's spot on with Disobedience?
I mean, very, very clearly, Ronit, or I guess I think that's how it's pronounced, Ronit, Rachel Weisz's character, she's obviously very clearly disobedient to the ways of that Orthodox community. She's very disobedient, and to a degree, so is McAdams' character. She's she was disobedient, but then she fell on line, even like she said, if I don't have sex with my husband, it's not like I'm going to get beat, and she does what a lot of, not just women, but people do, even in our society, where what's comfortable for, to be comfortable, to have security. There we go, that's the phrase I'm looking for. They take the life that's going to give them security. So she has a husband, she has a job, she has money, maybe not, she's not rich, but she has security, she's going to be taken care of. But then the old flame comes back in, and yes, she's very disobedient, even to the point of where it culminates at the end, where she's like she ends up leaving her husband.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Very disobedient.
Especially in the fact that I think a lot of the stuff you're talking about, I think is kind of more subtle in the film, to where they're not actually saying these things out loud, but you really get the sense of that that shunning throughout the film, which is kind of underplayed. So I guess in a way that's done really well. Let's talk about the sex scene. So I thought it was very passionate. I thought it was it's definitely not as explicit as Blue, but they're completely different movies with different feels. I've heard a lot about the spitting. Now, when I actually saw this,
1,000% agree with that.
When I heard about the spitting thing, I thought it was going to be more of like an aggressive spit, and in the movie it's more of a playful spit, which, I mean, whatever. It's kind of silly seeing them, drizzle spit in each other's mouths. I mean, it's definitely not. I'm not really sure how that's sexy, but I guess to people that are swapping spit, that's what it's about. So yeah, I thought it was a very intense sex scene, which was pretty erotic or sensual to watch, and yeah, I thought it was done pretty well. And you'll notice they're dressed in black the whole time, so that's another way that it's kind of underplaying the passion that's already there.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, 1,000% agree. It's completely different than Blue. If they had done one of the things I did say I thought that they should have done with the movie, which would have been like a flashback scene to when they were younger or something. If they had shown like a sex scene, then I definitely could have seen more comparisons to Blue. Because outside of there's some lesbians and there's like a sex scene, like I really don't see the comparison to Blue at all.
True.
I didn't really understand the spitting, and maybe that's something. Maybe that's a thing I don't get. Usually you hear sex scene and you hear spitting, and there's a guy involved, and that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And so, but I saw the spit in each other's mouths, and my initial thing was, well, that's a different way to swap spit, and they were pretty much closed the whole time, and the only nudity was in the sex scene with Rachel McAdams and her husband earlier, and it wasn't very much at all. So I thought it was a pretty good sex scene. I'm not going to go as far as one of the Letterboxd reviews I saw where someone in all capital letters was like, best sex scene ever.
Not quite.
I think they copy pasted it like a few times. It's just, and I guess it's all subjective, to what you like. I mean, if they think that's their opinion, more power to them,
The final orgasm moan at the end kind of made me think of McAdams might have been channeling. I'm not sure if you've seen When Harry Met Sally, but Meg Ryan in that movie has a famous fake orgasm that it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Not that it was fake.
But I'll have what she's having. I'll have what she's having. I haven't seen that movie, but I think anybody who's been alive, or anybody at least around our age or older, is going to know I'll have what she's having, or they know that line and don't even know what it's from because it's been mimicked in so many times.
Very true.
But yeah, especially even before I had seen Blue, I knew that there was a lot of nudity in that movie, and to hear this movie compared to it, I was expecting when they hit their big sex scene, comparing these movies, and then I watched them and I was just what. And it's a completely different topic of conversation, I guess, for a different time. But yeah, even that scene, you said like you said, they were in black, and it's like they're just even that was a color muted thing. I didn't even think about that until you said it. That they were still in black the whole time.
Yep, not even naked, really. And I mean, and that helps make it less explicit. So starting to wind this thing down. So I thought the end was a little odd. There's a lot of waffling back and forth about what McAdams is going to do. I mean, she finally gets the courage to tell her husband that she's going to leave him. She finds out that she's pregnant. He gets the position as Rav, but turns it down and then releases her in front of everyone, which is a pretty big strong moment. And then you're thinking that maybe she'll go off and these two women will have their thing, but then all of a sudden that doesn't happen, and then the movie just ends with kind of this all being just kind of a one-off. And it seemed, I mean, that can be realistic, but at the same time, it didn't really seem like we saw any thought process in her mind of, am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? And it just kind of ends with her just kind of going and not being disobedient.
I don't know. Like I kind of took it as the way I perceived it was, if she runs back off with Rachel Weisz, is like all the. Well, let me figure out how I want to phrase this right. All right, 3, 2, 1. What I remember thinking when I watched it and going, I was surprised that she didn't leave with her. But I remember seeing something. I don't remember what it was precisely, but I remember thinking that the reason that she didn't was it was something along the lines of that she just for herself, like, to finally be on her own. So, like in her early adolescence, it was the three of them because her husband is Rachel Weisz's cousin, and then the three of them were like good friends. So there was the three of them, and then it was the two of them were a couple. And she leaves, and then now her whole adult life she's been with him. So she's going to do this. This is how she's going to be, I guess, to find herself type thing. Because who is she if she just goes back and goes and bees with her? Plus, I remember thinking there was something along the lines of if she goes and bees with her, it was somehow bad. Not bad in like the sense of she's bad religiously, but like it was bad, like as in they were bad for each other kind of thing. Despite that they love each other, they were still just bad. And I don't remember where I picked up on that from, but I just remember getting that vibe somehow. I don't remember.
Yeah,
where.
I never recall any real friction between the two. And it's just like you have this poignant moment where like the rabbi's like, "I free you," and then she's like, "Well, never mind. I guess I'll be with you, and we'll have this kid, and she'll go back to New York, and that's the end."
Well, she's still. I mean, remember she was on the couch when he came downstairs, and Rachel Weisz was leaving. She was sleeping on the couch, so I think she's still leaving him, and going to be single. They're still going to get their divorce, but she's just not going to go with Rachel Weisz.
Oh, really?
So they're all just going to be separated. Yeah, because she was still on the couch.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't get that sense at all, but maybe I need to revisit that. And interesting. Going back to Weisz a little bit, like so in terms of the photography aspect, like so the final shot is of her going to her father's grave, and she clicks the camera and takes a picture of the mound of dirt. It's not even like a finished grave at that point. I don't know. It's just something. It was just something about her and the photography where I wasn't really sold that, she was like this photographer. There is one scene where like she's taking pictures of McAdams where she seems like she's kind of into what she's doing, but for the most part, it never really seemed like she was a photographer. And so with that feeling, like, I think this was supposed to be like this poignant moment where maybe she's trying to see eye to eye with her dad as she takes a picture of him or the grave, that is. And I don't know. It didn't really resonate the way I thought it kind of should for being the final shot of this drama.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I remember thinking in that scene, it's like, why is she using film? But like not just necessarily film, because obviously there are people who use film and for different reasons. But it was more like not just film, but like a camera that looked like it was just ridiculously ancient.
Maybe it's a period
more
piece.
so than that. Maybe so, but like I really thought that it should have just ended with McAdams running to the car and sharing that that moment where they're telling each other goodbye and she kisses her, and then but I guess maybe the movie was it was her dad dying that brought him there and set up this whole thing, and then her telling her dad goodbye through taking that picture or something, something of that nature. I'm not really sure. That's so just kind of.
Another thing I think that kind of took me out of it is the fact that it does go by really, really slow. Like, it's not until the 30-minute mark where we get to this real interesting dinner where you're finding out more about the community, and it's not really until the hour mark until, like, their relationship between the two women starts to heat up. So, I mean, we're talking about all these real interesting moments throughout, but this is a 2-hour movie where it feels 2 hours for sure.
I mean, I think it felt like a lot longer, and even though we keep saying like not to compare it to Blue, but that's the one everyone compares it to. It's a 3 hour movie that I felt like that movie flew by. It did not feel like a 3 hour movie.
Absolutely agree.
At all.
It's crazy. I mean, even after this conversation, I feel even more confused about how I feel about this. But in the rating segment, I would stick with my 3.5 star rating, which I still need to put up on the Letterboxd. So I think the acting is good and subtle, but I didn't really connect with the characters, which made it feel cold to me. I like the themes of like going against like your upbringing to be the person that you want to be, so that's interesting, and it's all depicted in this very melancholy manner, which the story is, but I just didn't feel connected enough to really say that I really love this film. Like I think it's a very good film, but it doesn't really go beyond that, even though I think it had the potential to, with its really strong themes. I just think if it would have done something else to where it connected with me, maybe maybe it would have been more of a masterpiece in my eyes. Like I think Blue is a masterpiece, and because that movie is so doggone relatable, you don't have to be a gay woman, in my opinion, to just feel totally connected to the people in those movies. And I think that's why that's a masterpiece, and this one is trying.
Yeah, like I gave Disobedience 3 stars, for a lot of the same reasons that you said. Like I thought the acting was good, and like I felt like it needed some more color. Like I understand they were probably jumping with the color being so muted, like you said, to be melancholy, which the movie was. But I just didn't really connect with them, and we go back to, like I said, Blue. We keep using it, and I also think that movie was a masterpiece, and that's just. Like you said, you don't have to be a gay woman. It's because the French title is The Story of Adele, and it's her story. It's her story of becoming who she is, falling in love, and all that. And everyone can relate to who you are, and falling in love, and just becoming the person that you are, and going through all of that. So, like, I honestly I sat down at the end of that movie and went to go watch it, and I was like, I was like, man, I wish I put that movie on my list, and wish we were talking about that movie instead of Disobedience. Like, to be honest, not that I'm upset that I watched Disobedience. Like, it's not like I didn't write I actually wrote a review about this one. I didn't put 9 vomiting emojis after this one. Like I did on a previous movie. So
yeah, that was rough.
There is that. So
very cool. All right. So to move on,
like someone.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if someone's listening, like, I would still say, like, this movie is, you put it at 3.5, I put it at 3, so that's a 6 and a 7. That's a round average to a little bit above average. Definitely say that's worth a watch. It's just I didn't love it. Like I said earlier, I just think it's be over the top to be a better movie. Like, it was just right there, and it was just missing something.
Yeah, definitely if you think it'd be interesting to see the experience of a very a woman that is constrained by her religion and can't be the person she wants to be, and an old fling comes back into her life, and to see how she deals with that. If that kind of story seems interesting to you, definitely check it out and judge it for yourself and see if the subtleness is enough to help you connect with those characters. But unfortunately, that's the biggest drawback for me. All right.
Yeah.
So moving into the challenge portion, and Joey, last time, like over a month ago, you challenged me to watch Gangster Squad, which is a 2013 American action crime thriller directed by Ruben Fleischer. Not sure what else he directed. I have to look that up. It stars Josh Brolin, Ryan Gosling, Nick Nolte, Emma Stone, Michael Pena, and Sean Penn. It's set in 1949, and the plot is a fictionalized account of the LAPD officers and detectives called the Gangster Squad, who attempt to keep LA safe from a vicious gangster by acting like gangsters themselves. So an interesting factoid about this, the film was actually originally set to be released in September 7th, 2012, but in the wake of the 2012 Aurora shooting, which was the whole Joker deal during the Batman Dark Knight Rises, the guy who dressed up as the Joker and unfortunately killed those people in the movie theater. Awful incident. The film was pushed back to January 11th to accommodate some reshoots, and it never really got a great traction. So ever since I heard that this movie was coming out, I really had no desire to see this. And, you know, it wasn't until you, Joey, you're like, hey, Justin, go watch Gangster Squad, that, you know, I am in the position to watch it now. Gangster Squad, I mean, just the name alone sounds kind of cheesy. But this movie, it moves along at an excellent pace. It has really fun, interesting characters, and it has somewhat brutal violence, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I've had a really good time with this movie, and I'm so glad you recommended it. It's a shame that it's really heavily panned on Letterboxd. There's like barely any fans of it, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff people say on there about it. But so a few things to say. It had some cool stylistic moments. I mean, style isn't like a huge thing in this movie, other than the fact that, you know, it's a period piece, so they do have like the gangster kind of vibe to it. Some style things that did stand out to me was the fact that there's a scene where like they're in a dark room, so to actually see what's going on, they like freezed on these like picture images, which was kind of cool. And then at the end, they did a shootout in slow motion where we even see this little Christmas ornament explode into 1,000 pieces during the shootout, which was kind of funny. I thought Brolin fit the main character perfectly as this like tough, badass guy, and his wife was really interesting since she was like a part of it and looking through his files, helping him pick out like the perfect team. So those were really fun characters. So Ryan Gosling in this, he sounds like he's 12 years old as this pretty boy. And so he has this relationship with Emma Stone in the movie, who is actually also in a relationship with the main gangster. And I might say this is the weakest part of the movie because I could care less about this relationship. And you know what? That doesn't bother me one bit, because I think if we would have gotten more on this relationship, it would have slowed down how great the pacing was in this movie, and I don't think that would have been necessary at all. One of the things I really liked about this movie is you'd have this crazy action scene, and like in most movies, they might like go to a shot of like one of these like detectives like, oh, investigating, saying exactly what happened. But no, they just pan to the side and you move on to the next thing, and that's exactly what I thought it needed to be. You didn't really need, I mean, they were the cops doing this stuff, and then you have your pinnacle moment of Sean Penn being like, so they burned all the cash and they didn't take anything? Okay, these guys are cops. And I thought Sean Penn, he was a little over the top in what he was doing, but I mean, that's perfect for a gangster role, because I mean, that's how a gangster would act. Yeah, I love how all the crazy action scenes, it wasn't like Tarantino levels of blood flying around, but there was just enough, a lot of good gun violence in there, you know, that taps into my inner action lover. And yeah, I had a great time watching it. How was your rewatch?
I hadn't seen it in a long time. Like, I had forgotten about the drawing and quartering scene at the very beginning. So, I mean, that kind of starts you out with a bang. I really enjoyed it. So lots of gunplay, lots of violence. You know, that's kind of my MO. One of the things, and I don't remember thinking this the first time I watched it, but so, you know, Sean Penn did an excellent job. You know, not disappointed that it was Sean Penn, but it was like, you know, you got the head of the, you know, criminal organization to this big gangster, and it's like, you know, this kind of feels like it should be like Ray Liotta or something. And, you know, I don't know what he was doing then. You know, they couldn't get him. You know, I understand he wasn't an Italian guy because he was Jewish, but it's like, it was like, I mean, maybe this should have been Ray. But, you know, again, Sean Penn fit really well, especially, you know, beating up on people and everything. It was really good. You know, another thing put together, you know, so you had Brolin, so you had Thanos, you had Michael Pena, The storytelling guy from Ant-Man,
Right.
in there. That
Marvel
was kind of cool.
connections here.
You also had, you had Falcon
Yeah. Yep. He was.
in there too. So so you had all the Marvel connections. I won't say before all of them were in. Well, I think maybe before all of them were in.
I think my
So you
favorite
had all of that
actually
going
was
on there.
the T-1000 himself, Mr. Robert Patrick in there, and I loved that scene of where he was shooting the can up in the air, and he's like, "It's all about shooting where the can is going to be, not where it's at." I thought he was really cool in the film.
I mean, yeah, the cast was really good. You got Giovanni Ribisi in there too. The tech
Smart guy.
The tech guy, but the tech guy.
It almost felt just like his role
the
from Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, just basically just they actually were like, "You're actually good at this."
Yeah,
the scene
that
where they
telephone
break
clipping
in,
line was cool.
yeah, they break into Mickey Cohen's house, and he runs. Wow. Ryan Gosling, there we go. Ryan Gosling runs into Emma Stone, and it's just kind of like this scene. They don't say anything, and he runs back, to give her a kiss or whatever, and Giovanni Ribisi's like looking at him, and he just goes to prove, you're Ryan Gosling, you can just do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Just do whatever the hell you want. It was just a fun movie. Like I enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting anything, crazy high cinema. Just I didn't really remember anything about it. And fun story, I had went into a pawn shop. This is a roommate told me there was one of the pawn shops here in town. Usually, for some reason, that particular one has a lot of good movies, and I just stopped in there, knew we were about to watch it, and they had it, so I picked it. And Crazy Stupid Love, which is another one of the Ryan Emma duo movies up. I picked them both up for $3 a piece, so that was made watching this a lot easier. So I have all three of their movie combos together now. So.
So it's this one. You said Crazy Stupid Love and La La Land.
Yes, which that one I have on Steel because I absolutely love that movie. I absolutely adored that movie last year when I watched it for the first time.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize you were a musical fan.
I don't watch a lot, but when I do, I really like them. And that being said, I've watched this year. I've watched A Star Is Born. I've watched The Dirt. I've watched. I guess it isn't a musical, but it's a music-based movie. And then Bohemian. So I mean, those kind of the three bigger musical-based movies. But yeah. So.
All right, so I haven't put my Letterboxd review up, but it's going to be 4.5 stars with this. I mean, it's a crazy fun action movie. So I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece, but it really hit my sweet spot in terms of action. I thought it moved quickly, had a good story to tell, and I was really happy with it. So appreciate you recommending that.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I gave it. Off of initial remembrance, I'd given it 4, and I just left it at 4. I mean, it did everything I needed it to do. It was, it was fun. It was great. Just great fun. So I just left it. Left it where it was.
Very cool. And so the next challenge. So at some point in the near future, we're going to be watching David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. So I was thinking it would probably be a good idea if we warmed you up on David Lynch, because if you haven't seen much of his stuff, he's an interesting one to get into. Have you ever seen Blue Velvet before?
I have not seen Blue Velvet. I actually think I went to go start it one day a couple weeks ago, and for whatever reason, I had to leave or something. So when I say I started it, I hit play 10 seconds of it started, and I had to leave. I got called in early to work or something. So that was it.
Have you seen any? Do you recall seeing any David Lynch?
Off the top of my head that I know, no.
Okay. Yeah,
But I
so
mean,
this is a really great entry point. It kind of has some of his weird style, but isn't like as crazy as like Mulholland Drive or some of his later stuff. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about Blue Velvet.
all right, cool deal.
And
So
so,
just to answer your question, as soon as this page loads, the rest of the way I will tell you.
okay,
'Cause it wants to go super slow, but I have watched zero.
okay, perfect. So we'll do a little bit of dabbling in Lynch together with this podcast. I've actually seen all of his films. I haven't seen some of his short films, but yeah, about 2 years ago. Like I had seen Eraserhead once, and I just totally didn't get it. And then I watched it again, and I was like, I don't get it. And then I finally watched it another time and had listened to a review and was just starting to click. And yes, something about David Lynch films, like always hearing about them, I always was kind of hesitant of like, what exactly am I going to see in these movies? Is it going to be pretty extreme? He has some pretty weird surrealist stuff in there, but he's kind of campy at the same time. So and you definitely would get a vibe of that if you ever watched Twin Peaks, which was his TV show. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you think of David Lynch. All right, Joey, what is our main film for next time?
All right, so our main film is going to be directed by Robert Altman, and it is
yay.
yes. So the main star, a lot of people might recognize as Rachel and Ross's father, and this is going to be The Long Goodbye.
I'm very looking forward to that. I've heard this is a neo crime. Like he has a neo western called McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which I really enjoy. That's my favorite film of his, and I've been really looking to an excuse to watch The Long Good Friday. It's not actually a Criterion, so it's kind of like floating off into like, it should be one, but it's just not one yet. So I'm glad you picked that one. Very cool.
And I'm sitting here looking at the cast list, and like way down on the cast list there's David Carradine. So you have Kung Fu and Bill, and you have the Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger like down in this. So this is really interesting, like to see them be in some roles that aren't, that they're going to be known for.
Now, I'll caution you with Altman. Altman likes to do a naturalistic audio in his movies. So what you might get in this movie is you'll hear like a bunch of people talking at once, but your main character's talking as well. So I might recommend, if you have a chance, to maybe listen to this with headphones, because he's definitely known for having like lots of audio going on and it kind of being hard to tell what's going on. So just caution about that.
I might, when I watch movies by myself, I always watch with subs, but I do tend to watch a lot of these with my roommate, and he does not share my my love for subs, but I might be like, yo, this is one we need to watch with subs. So
yeah, that would probably be a good idea. I might do the same, just depending on how big of a thing that is. Yeah, Altman's he's a really interesting auteur director. I've seen a couple of his stuff, and so I'm definitely want to see what he can do with a crime film. Cool. All right, so thanks for listening to the Average Joe's Movie Club cast. We're finally back. Hope to be doing this twice a month moving forward, but we'll see how it goes. Life happens. Make sure to check out us on Letterboxd. That's where we share our most up-to-date thoughts on movies and write reviews, and please comment and share the podcast. We'd love to have a big community of people that listen to us, and we'd love to have a whole 30 minutes of us talking viewer feedback if we can. How can people get in touch with us, Joey?
They can email us at the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast at gmail.com.
That's it. And also we're starting to get on SoundCloud now. So if instead of YouTube, if you prefer SoundCloud, we'll be on there as well. And we really enjoyed talking these movies tonight. And like I always like to say at the end of my reviews, happy movie watching, everyone. Skull